In the world of enterprise infosec, perfection is entirely invisible. When you do your job flawlessly, the executives think you are doing absolutely nothing. My name is Nia. I was the lead cybersecurity architect for a massive, multi-billion-dollar financial firm. Every single day, my network quietly repelled thousands of automated intrusion attempts, sophisticated phishing campaigns, and brute force attacks from global threat actors. My daily existence was a high-stakes, invisible war. To protect the company's highly classified financial data, I built a brutal, uncompromising digital fortress. I implemented a strict zero-trust architecture across the entire network. It means exactly what it sounds like. The system trusts absolutely no one. Every single user, from the junior interns all the way up to the CEO, had to constantly verify their identity through aggressive multi-factor authentication and encrypted VPNs just to access their internal files. It was a masterpiece of modern cybersecurity. The perimeter was completely impenetrable. But there is a fatal flaw in corporate psychology. When the executives never experience a data breach, they stop believing that the hackers actually exist. They stop looking at your security protocols as a vital shield, and they start looking at them as a frustrating barrier to their daily convenience. If you have ever been told that your strict boundaries are just slowing everybody down, keep watching. Welcome back to Scars and Silk. Hit that subscribe button right now, because today I am going to show you exactly what happens when an arrogant executive decides to tear down a digital fortress just to save a few seconds of his time. The peace in my department ended the day the board hired a new chief operating officer, Marcus. Marcus was a classic efficiency executive. He didn't understand the concept of a threat landscape. He only cared about velocity and quarterly revenue. And to Marcus, my zero-trust architecture was public enemy number one. Less than a month into his tenure, he called me into his office and pointed at his laptop screen in absolute frustration. He complained that his elite sales team was losing valuable minutes every single day just trying to log into the corporate network. He despised the multi-factor authentication, MFA prompts. He hated waiting for the encrypted VPN tunnels to connect. Nia, Marcus sighed, using that perfectly patronizing C-suite tone. We are a fast-paced financial firm, not a military bunker. This frictionless market demands speed, and your security protocols are creating an unacceptable bottleneck for my sales pipeline. I calmly explained that those bottlenecks were the only things keeping our classified financial data out of the hands of international cybercriminals. I showed him the logs. I showed him the thousands of automated attacks my system blocked just that morning. He didn't even look at the data. I am not asking for a lecture on IT paranoia, Marcus snapped. I am giving you an executive directive. I want the internal firewalls disabled for the sales and executive departments by Friday. I want frictionless, single password access to the central databases to streamline our workflow. I stared at him in absolute disbelief. He wasn't just asking me to lower our defenses. He was ordering me to unlock all the doors, turn off the cameras, and fire the armed guards inside a bank vault, just so his sales team didn't have to carry a heavy keychain. I didn't just refuse his order. I brought the threat intelligence to prove exactly why his request was corporate suicide. I printed a highly classified, real-time threat report and placed it directly on his mahogany desk. I highlighted the fact that elite, state-sponsored ransomware syndicates were actively targeting our specific financial sector. I explained that without our internal firewalls and multi-factor authentication, a single successful spear phishing email could compromise the entire corporate network in a matter of minutes. We would be completely defenseless. Marcus barely glanced at the data. He threw the report back across the desk, his face flushed with anger. I am sick of you IT people using hypothetical boogeymen to justify your bloated budgets and your restrictive control over this company, he sneered. You are protecting us, Nia. You are a paranoid bottleneck to our revenue stream. You either disable the security protocols right now, or I will find someone who will. In the cybersecurity world, you never compromise the integrity of the network to soothe an executive's ego. If a breach happens because you lowered the shields, the legal and financial liability falls entirely on your head. I stood up, looked him dead in the eye, and told him that his directive was a massive violation of federal compliance regulations, and I absolutely refused to execute the command. He didn't hesitate. Marcus fired me on the spot for gross insubordination. He picked up his phone, bypassed HR completely, and called the junior IT service desk. While I was still standing in his office, he ordered them to immediately revoke all of my administrative privileges, lock my security badges, and manually disable the internal firewalls and MFA requirements for the entire executive and sales divisions. He thought he was being a visionary leader, cutting through the red tape. He didn't realize that he had just aggressively expanded the company's attack surface and left the front door wide open for the wolves.
I didn't scream, and I didn't threaten to sue. I just walked back to my desk and calmly packed my things. As the junior IT team frantically began tearing down the internal firewalls and disabling the MFA prompts to appease Marcus, I discreetly checked my ultimate failsafe. In elite cybersecurity, you don't just prepare for external threats. You prepare for catastrophic internal stupidity. That is exactly why, months earlier, I had secretly built a redundancy protocol that wasn't listed on Marcus's precious operating expenses spreadsheet. I had designed and deployed an air-gapped, immutable backup vault. If you aren't familiar with InfoSec, air-gapped means the hardware is physically completely disconnected from the internet and the corporate network. It was a highly encrypted cold storage server hidden deep in the basement data center, containing a flawless daily snapshot of the company's entire infrastructure and classified financial databases. Because it was completely offline, it was mathematically impossible for a virus to reach it. Before handing over my security badge, I verified the physical vault was perfectly isolated and completely secure. I want to pause the story right here. I am talking directly to every woman who has ever been called paranoid, dramatic, or difficult simply because you were 2 steps ahead and saw the disaster coming. Have you ever quietly built your own safety net while an arrogant boss drove the project straight off a cliff? Go down to the comments right now and drop a shield or a lock if you know the absolute power of quiet preparation. And make sure you hit that subscribe button to join the Scars and Silk network, because you need to see exactly how fast a multi-billion-dollar corporation crumbles when they leave the front gates wide open. Back to the story. I walked out of the glass lobby, got in my car, and drove home. I didn't warn them again. I knew exactly what was coming. And it only took 4 days. It only took 4 days for Marcus's frictionless workflow to completely destroy the company. It started on a random Tuesday morning. A senior sales executive, enjoying his brand new single password access, received an urgent email that looked exactly like a standard vendor invoice. Because Marcus had disabled the advanced email filtering and the multi-factor authentication, the executive didn't have to verify his identity. He didn't have to bypass a firewall. He just clicked the malicious link.
The malware payload deployed instantly. In cybersecurity, we call what happened next lateral movement. If my zero trust architecture had still been in place, the virus would have been trapped and isolated inside that single laptop. But because Marcus had ordered the junior IT team to tear down the internal network segmentation to speed things up, there were absolutely no internal doors left to lock. The virus spread horizontally across the entire corporate network like a digital wildfire. It ripped through the sales pipelines, infected the executive servers, and completely corrupted the central financial databases in less than 90 seconds. At exactly 10:14 a.m., every single computer monitor in the massive corporate headquarters simultaneously flickered, went black, and locked onto a blood-red screen. Absolute silence fell over the sales floor as a plain text message appeared in the center of thousands of monitors. It was a ransom note from a notorious Eastern European ransomware syndicate. The company's entire multi-billion-dollar financial infrastructure had just been locked behind military-grade encryption. The hackers gave them exactly 48 hours to pay a $5 million ransom in untraceable Bitcoin, or they would permanently delete the decryption key and leak the highly classified financial data to the dark web. Marcus finally got his completely frictionless environment, but now the entire company was at a dead stop. In the middle of a catastrophic cybersecurity breach, the absolute worst thing an executive can do is try to hide it. Marcus sprinted into the shattered IT department, his face pale and sweating. The junior engineers were frantically trying to isolate the infected servers, but it was completely useless. The military-grade encryption had firmly locked them out of their own infrastructure. The multi-billion-dollar company was effectively dead in the water. Standard incident response protocol requires immediately notifying federal authorities, regulatory bodies, and the board of directors. But Marcus knew that if the board found out he was the one who explicitly ordered the security protocols dismantled, he wouldn't just be fired. He would face massive federal fines and potential prison time for gross negligence. So, he made the ultimate rookie mistake. He decided to negotiate with a global ransomware syndicate. Desperate to cover up his catastrophic failure, Marcus bypassed all financial compliance rules. He authorized a secret $5 million wire transfer from an emergency corporate contingency fund, converted it into untraceable Bitcoin, and sent it directly to the threat actor's cryptocurrency wallet on the dark web. He sat at his desk, shaking, staring at his monitor, waiting for the decryption key to arrive in his inbox so he could quietly reboot the network and pretend none of this ever happened. But elite cybercriminals don't have a customer service department. 10 minutes after the massive Bitcoin transfer cleared on the blockchain, the hackers sent their final response. They didn't send a decryption key. Instead, they executed a classic InfoSec nightmare, the double extortion maneuver. They sent Marcus a mocking message, thanking him for the $5 million, and informed him that they were permanently deleting the master decryption key anyway. Just to add insult to injury, they stated that unless he sent another $5 million in 24 hours, they would leak all of the company's highly classified financial data to the public internet. Marcus was completely destroyed. He had just burned $5 million in corporate funds, the network was still permanently locked, and the company was bleeding revenue by the second. He was out of money, out of leverage, and completely out of time. He only had one play left. He had to pick up his phone and call the exact architect he had just marched out of the building.
At exactly 4 p.m., my personal cell phone rang. It was Marcus, the man who had smugly fired me just 4 days earlier. sounded like a ghost. He was hyperventilating, completely unraveled. He confessed everything. He told me about the ransomware, the $5 million he secretly wired to the dark web, the double extortion, and the fact that the entire multi-billion-dollar corporation was effectively dead. He begged me to come back. He asked if there was any possible way I could reverse engineer the military-grade encryption. I sat at my kitchen table, perfectly calm, and let him finish his panicked rambling. "Marcus," I said softly, "I don't work for your company anymore. I am currently an independent incident response consultant, and I don't need to reverse engineer their encryption because I have an air-gapped, immutable backup of the entire corporate infrastructure sitting in cold storage." There was a dead, suffocating silence on the line. He realized in that exact moment that the paranoid IT architect he had fired was the only person on Earth holding the keys to the kingdom. He frantically asked how fast I could restore the network and what my hourly rate was. "I don't bill by the hour for a catastrophic breach recovery," I replied, my voice ice cold. "My emergency consulting fee is a flat $2 million, payable immediately via wire transfer, before I step foot in that building." He didn't even try to negotiate. When you were facing federal prison for a $5 million corporate cover-up, a $2 million consulting invoice is your only lifeline. The wire transfer cleared my account 20 minutes later. I drove to the headquarters, walked past the panicked executives, and went straight down to the basement data center. I physically plugged in my isolated cold storage server, bypassed the corrupted network, and restored the entire financial database from the pristine encrypted snapshot. By midnight, the company was fully operational. But Marcus didn't survive the night. The next morning, the board of directors ordered a full forensics audit. They discovered his unauthorized $5 million Bitcoin transfer to a global cyber cartel, and the $2 million consulting fee paid to the exact engineer he had just fired.